Welcome to the Nomads Nation Podcast, episode 10. Aaron here, and I got a really special guest today, guys. The one and only Ron Kwok. Ron, thank you for joining us today.
Hey, thanks for having me. How you doing?
Dude, I'm awesome, man. How about yourself?
I'm doing well. I'm getting stoked about summer, gearing up for said warmer weather, so it's gonna be good.
Well, I am also stoked about summer. I'm not sure how clear my picture is, but I got too stoked about summer. I don't know if you see the redness on my face and the blistering on my nose. Yes,
Yeah.
I got into Florida, so I live in Hong Kong, and I'm visiting family in Florida, and we got an Airbnb with a pool. And I got a little too ambitious on day one, I think. It was like an 8-hour pool day, and I'm like, I'm Italian. I don't need sunscreen, and I really need sunscreen.
That's your first mistake, dude.
It absolutely was. It was. So I'm suffering the repercussions of that now. But yeah, dude, summer's in full effect in Florida. What's the weather like in Northern California right now?
It's pretty relaxed right now. I think it's like 76 degrees today, so it's not too bad. It depends on where you are in California, but right now near the Bay, near San Francisco, it's pretty chill.
76. That doesn't sound too bad to me.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
So, dude, like, it's cool because we were talking before we started recording. Like, this is actually our first time, like, talking. We sent some emails back and forth, and we're a part of a group chat with some of the other backpack review guys and some of the other YouTubers. So it's like cool to just like connect and like I want to pick your brain about EDC stuff and live with purpose and some of your bag stuff. So if you're cool with it, let's jump into it.
Yeah, for sure. And I'll say one thing about us, like kind of chatting together in a group. For me personally, like I've always viewed YouTube and content creation as something that we naturally do alone, because it's we're in the studio by ourselves in front of the camera, and that's about it. But the few opportunities we do get to interact with other creators, it's both like a blessing and sort of something to be cautious about, just because like I don't want to kind of watch other people's content, your content, to the point where I'm just parroting what you guys say. You know what I mean? Like
For
your
sure.
ideas kind of inception their way into my head, and
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
want to, kind of dilute my own opinions on gear and things like that. So I love that we're both, we know that we're doing our own journeys kind of in tandem, and we know of each other, but we haven't really gotten a good opportunity to interact. And I love that this is kind of our first foray into picking each other's brains about things. So I think it's gonna be fun.
Hell yeah, dude. Freaking love that. I mean, we were also talking before, like, I just love the way you talk, dude. Like, I just think, like you have this, like, calming, like, fucking, like, wisdom to you, and it's just, like, I know we're the same age, and, like, I'm not saying you're the wisest dude ever. Like, I get that, we're all learning this and living this life, but, like, you just have this way of presenting information
Oh, thanks,
and
man.
your flow, and it's just like I just want to take you everywhere with me, and like Ron,
Yeah.
like what should I do,
Yeah.
and then you give me your advice.
I'll
and
be
your
your
advice. It's
little
just-
calming companion, dude. It's because life is chaos sometimes, dude. And I try and center myself as much as I can. And if I can reflect that either to the audience that are watching my videos, or to other creators who also have a platform and understand their influence there, I think it's a good day if I can get that done.
Well, and like your channel is like so built around that too, because literally, it's live with purpose, right? And I haven't told you this, but like your channel's name like gave me like an existential like crisis at one point, because I was like, I don't have a purpose. Not for me, like my channel, I'm like the channel needs a purpose. Like Ron's
Yeah.
channel has a purpose. There's like it's
For
like
sure.
because because of that, I love your channel because it transcends gear. It transcends just like stuff. And the way that you sort of word things and the way that you analyze things, it's always with this higher sort of purpose in mind, right? And I just find that very inspirational. And I've been working behind the scenes to try and I love what we're doing on Nomads Nation, but I'm always looking for ways to clarify our message and, be more than just about stuff. And that's something
Yeah.
that you've done very well. And
thank you,
thank you
man.
for the inspiration, dude.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Live with Purpose just started because I didn't really know what I wanted to do. My YouTube journey started, in 2019 on the eve of, pandemic. And so, I was thinking to myself, you're just looking at the stuff on my desk. I want to make videos. I've always been a creative person. I wanted to try my hand at being in front of the camera, behind it. And, I wanted to make it as easy as possible for me to get started. So I just looked around and I was like, you know what? I have a wallet, a key, a set of keys, my phone on me all the time. Why don't we start there and start talking about that? But, at that point on YouTube, there's already plenty of reviews out there of, all sorts of gear, bags, EDC, and I didn't want to be another person talking about the same tech specs or reading off the product page. And so Live with Purpose sort of grounds me and kind of allows me to take a step back and say, okay, why do I carry the smartphone? Why do I want to organize my keys in a certain way? And so from there, that's sort of been the keystone to all the different videos that I make, just because I don't want to do random stuff. And sometimes, I get caught up in the excitement of a piece of gear and I want to make a video on it, but then I step back and go, wait, I'm actually never going to use this thing.
Yeah.
And so Living with Purpose allows me to kind of bring that back. Be like, okay, why would I even want to put this in the pocket? Does it deserve the real estate in my bag? And so on.
I love that story because, especially when you're talking about, like, all right, so you knew you wanted to start something. You had this passion, and you had potentially, like, what you'd like to eventually do. But you didn't wait for the perfect moment necessarily. You just were like, all right, what do I got lying around? What can I do? And I think that's such an important thing because a lot of people are waiting for that perfect moment to maybe launch something or that perfect scenario. But really, the best thing you can do is just start. And then you will get better. And even that thing might not be the thing, but it might lead you to the next thing. But if you're not really putting yourself out there and just taking those risks and just throwing shit against the wall and seeing what sticks, then nothing's going to happen, So I'm very passionate about entrepreneurship and the creator economy and everything. So I'm always looking for opportunities to just kind of give my little words of wisdom, my little inspiration. So if anyone's listening to this and you're thinking about starting your own channel or your own blog or your own TikTok or whatever it is, just like Ron said, look at what's around you and just start shooting.
Yeah. I mean, I still am one of those people sometimes. Perfectionist is something that I self-label as, and I see myself getting caught up in spending way too much time editing a video because I'm like, oh, I could nail this shot a little better, or I can just add this little graphic or this lower third and it'll make it so much better. But at the end of the day, it's all about putting the reps in, right? And you mentioned something earlier that really struck a chord with me, in that you just got to throw shit up against the wall and see what sticks, because you don't know if this is going to be your end thing, and there's no way for you to know until you actually start doing it and putting in the reps and seeing, okay, this is actually what I like doing. These are my preferences when it comes to shooting, when it comes to editing, when it comes to style and flow. So you won't know any of that until you actually pick up the camera and start recording. And I got caught in YouTube tutorial, YouTube Academy hell for a long time, because I was just looking at different tutorials and, oh, I could do this, I could do that. But you just got to start.
Just got to start, dude. Yeah, and I understand the perfectionism aspect. I mean, I've seen your videos. So I watch so many of your videos, and they're always so good. And just on that, on that note, EDC, dude. I'm curious. Little background, what kind of got you into it?
So like I said, I just have always been a gearhead. Whenever I set out to do something, let's take snowboarding, for example. When I first started snowboarding, it wasn't like, hey, let's get on the slopes and rent something and let's just enjoy the snow. It was, what kind of snowboard do I need? What kind of gear do I need to stay dry? Do I need this level waterproof rating? Do I need this type of binding? Do I need this tool when I get on there? And so that's the way my mind works. It's like, okay, I want to do something. I need to figure out my research. I need to figure out every single tool and gadget and accessory that'll help me achieve that goal. And so everyday carry was the same thing. When I sat down and thought to myself, okay, I want to make a channel. What do I want to make it on? It was primarily like, okay, what do I need to get through the day on a daily basis? What do I do? What's my job? What do I find myself reaching for over and over and over again? And then I started thinking about, okay, let's just start researching these things, see what pops up. And then the term everyday carry started showing up on, the Google SEO, the YouTube. And so I'm just like, okay, what is this? What is this weird topic? What do these keywords mean? And you dive down the rabbit hole, and here we are, right?
For sure, dude. That's interesting. So you've always been a gearhead in that sense, someone who you like to read the specs. I mean, I assume you probably heavily research products before buying them. Is that just kind of your style?
Yeah, and you kind of see what the gear was designed for. Why does a certain gear have certain distinct features that sets itself apart from other types of gear in its category? And, you know, there's so many tech specs that you could read through. So but the next step is really trying to discern, okay, which features do I need and which features do I don't? And the way I kind of logic it out is I'll never know how I'm going to use a certain thing until I do the comparisons and read it through. And then you start going one step to the next and, you know, spend half an hour reading one thing.
For sure, for sure. You know, it's interesting too with your channel, dude, because like you're like an EDC, you're sort of like you're in the middle. Like, so there's like the bag review guys, like me and like the pack hackers and Chase, you know, they were mostly just doing that, right? And then you have like accessorize me on that end where it's like the EDC and the gadgets and the spinners and all those things. And then you're sort of bridging that gap in some ways where you're doing a little bit of the carry stuff in terms of like the EDC stuff, but you'll do some travel stuff as well. So is that an intentional sort of content distribution, or is it just about what you're feeling? Like how does that work for you?
I mean, that's a great question. Thank you. And I think it's mainly because I view myself as sort of another link in the chain that makes up our creator community, where we have a lot of specialized channels that do, you know, one specific category and do it really well. Like you, like Pack Hacker, you guys know your bags. And if there was any, you know, sort of, if I had any issues with what does this bag do? What is it for? What are these details? What are these details for? I would look up your channels and look up your reviews on said bags. But
Appreciate
I think of course, man. But my place, I feel like, in the creator community is then kind of grabbing some of these choice pieces of gear and then interpreting the purpose, right? Like going back to live with purpose, interpreting the why and the how. So you guys illustrate really well what bags are for and how you would use one theoretically in any given situation. But for me, I kind of want to take a practical step forward in that I'm declaring that, hey, you know, I am a person who likes snowboarding. I'm a person who commutes every day and works in tech and has a lot of tech accessories with me. What do I need to get that done? And then that's when I start tapping the individual pieces of gear. And, you know, from a certain perspective, it seems like I dabble in a little bit of everything. But I think I try and just kind of marry the individual gear reviews with, okay, the why, the how, the practicality of things.
It's interesting too because like with all these different sort of parts that you're touching, like we have a lot of overlap, but we have one part where there's no overlap. Ron, pitch me on knives. Why do I gotta start getting into knives? Because you love them. And I've watched your content. I'm like, dude, yo, knives are sick. But like pitch me on it. Why the love for the EDC knife scene? Because it's weird. Because EDC is actually two separate terms in some ways. There's like the carry community, but then there's the knife community. There's actually a sort of a split. And I want you to try and bring me to the other side.
For sure. Well, let me preface this by saying that you absolutely need to observe your local knife laws. So before you get too excited with what we're talking about, you got to just make sure that you can carry and be just fine in that regard. But I think with knives, and it's funny that I have to kind of convince you of all people, because as content creators, we get a lot of packages. We get a lot of cardboard boxes and tape, and you have to get into them somehow, okay?
Bro, it's called a pair of scissors. You just open it and just... It's so funny you mentioned that, because I'll do unboxing videos sometimes, and like I always use the same like shitty ass pair of scissors from like that I bought in like 2004, but they still work, and I use it, and I get comments all the time like, mate, you need a box cutter. What are you doing? Where's your knife? And I'm like, dude, the scissors work just fine. But also like... That's what my friends tell me about backpacks. Like, why would I spend $300 on a backpack when this $20 JanSport does the trick? So I get it from that perspective. So it starts with the box cutting, but also it's so much more than that, right? In terms of like EDC knives.
Yeah, and so I think the next step there is to really like dive into it from a gearhead's perspective, right? Like, for the same reason why you wouldn't, be satisfied with a $24 JanSport backpack, you first realize that you're going to need a cutting implement frequently and regularly and consistently, and then from there you kind of dive in and say, okay, well, let's take those pairs of scissors from that drawer and cut a box, right? Like, what are kind of the pain points you experience when you're doing that, right? Like, you got to walk all the way to your kitchen, wherever you store your scissors. You got to bring that back to your studio, and then you got to open it, and it's kind of a weird ergonomics thing. You slice the box open, and then afterwards, what do? You kind of have to either leave the scissors there, maybe forget that you put it there, and next time you need it in the kitchen, you're like, oh man, I left the scissors in my studio. Or you got to get up and walk all the way back there and put it away. And there's just so many factors that go into it. And so you think, okay, if I'm a gearhead and I pride myself in kind of equipping myself with optimized gear that ideally will help me get the job done more efficiently, more quickly, then you start thinking, okay, well, what about a pocket knife that I can just keep here in the studio? Or better yet, if I need to be on the go and I need to cut something, let's say I'm going to the mailroom and getting something and I can't wait to open it up, maybe I can cut it up right there. And so once you dive into that, I know it sounds a little superficial, like, oh, we're just opening cardboard boxes. But when you start generalizing the purpose out to people who use knives regularly in their line of work, whether they're, out in the field more, or if they're in the wilderness a lot more, maybe first responders, then you start getting into, different facets of why a knife may be useful and the purposes therein and why certain knives have certain blade steels. And then you can kind of see the rabbit hole visualizing there, and you dive deeper into why things are geared a certain way, and your love for knives starts to manifest.
I could imagine. So it's funny you mentioned the laws. One of the big reasons I haven't gotten into this is Hong Kong has very murky gray laws in regards to this, so I just ain't touching it. But if I were in the States, like in Florida, where I can, go to Walmart and buy a machine gun, I'd probably have a pretty dope knife collection, because it's just one of those things where I could imagine, like, once you just sort of get into a little taste of it, you're just like, oh well, that knife looks cool too, and just then the dominoes start tumbling.
Sure. Yeah, and it's also circumstantial. Like I've befriended a few people in the creator community, and one of my close friends now is Brandon from Everyday Minimalist, and he, I would say, is one of the premier knife content creators out there. And so in my journey of everyday carry, I always observe knives as simply a subset of the larger everyday carry. It's a piece of gear, but it's not your main primary tool that you're taking with you. Bar none, like hands down. But with him, he leads with knives and then builds his whole loadout around it. And so I think just being in proximity to him and how he thinks with knives just maybe made me a little biased towards looking at knives a little more closely.
Sure. That makes sense, dude. Well, you put a hell of a pitch. If I move back to the States, I'm going on Team EDC.
Hey,
knife.
hit me up, man, as soon as you get here.
You'll be the first to know, don't you worry. But I thought it was interesting how you were talking about like locations, because I actually had this in my notes to potentially talk about, and it kind of overlaps in a lot of ways, how your location dictates something about your EDC from like a state law perspective versus my location, right? And I thought it was interesting how location, just in general, whether it's on a law perspective, which is only going to really be relevant to a few things, or if it's just on everything else, how relevant where you live and what that lifestyle is to your everyday carry. For instance, like, you're in the Bay Area. Do you guys have a car, or do you do public transport?
I drive, so I have a car.
Okay.
Yeah.
So like, I drove my whole life. I lived in the States. Unless you live in New York or San Francisco proper, or maybe Chicago. There's very few cities that have really great public transportation infrastructure in the States.
Yeah. Sure.
So most Americans have cars, right? So I never really thought much about everyday carry until then I moved to Hong Kong, and then in that urban, dense city life where your backpack becomes your car. Then everyday carry became this fascinating thing to me, so much more because, I have this one bag, and I have to be careful with what I put in it because I don't want too much weight in there. Yeah. But having said that, I also want to have as much stuff on me as possible in case X, Y, Z situation arises. So it's interesting just how that location changes. Like as the EDC guru of this conversation, Ron, like, do you have any thoughts about how location sort of affects
it completely affects. It completely affects your loadout, and you touched on a few good points, just explaining your perspective in an urban setting where you don't have your car and you need to be mobile. For me personally, I'll talk about two things. I'll talk about climate, and I'll talk about having a car and not having a car. California is a very mild climate. We don't get snow. We don't get blazing hot heat. Maybe we do, like in the desert areas, but largely, 76, nice and balmy. It's fine, right? Mm-hmm. But here I am talking about X-Pack, talking about waterproofing, and talking about how gear will keep up with you no matter the situation. But like, I could be perfectly fine with wax canvas or any
Yep.
sort of like low performing linen fabric, even because the chances of me getting caught in a blizzard or a snowstorm is nil, so
Yeah.
I don't really need X-Pac. But the fact that I report on it, and I personally like X-Pac as a material, that kind of says something about need versus want. And on top of that,
For
like
sure.
having a car here, I don't ever think about weight considerations to the point where like a typical backpacker or someone who is you have all your gear on your back and that's it. That's how you move, and you any ounce you can save is good. But for me, I'm just like, I like this, I like this, I like this. If it gets too
You're
heavy, I just
starting
throw
the
it in
car.
the trunk. Yeah,
Exactly.
exactly. Right. So right there shows you the different frame of mind that I'm in versus you, and how you may opt for a backpack simply because it weighs, a few ounces lighter. And for me, I'd be like, okay, that's minimal.
Yeah.
That's not a point of priority for me. But for you, it's everything. So I love seeing those sort of juxtapositions of priorities there.
That's really cool. And one other one that I get a lot on the channel, and I'm curious, because you interact with a lot of your comments, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So like one that I get a lot on Nomads Nation is really people wanting more safety and like theft-free features, right? Like to protect their gear, and yet again, location dependent. I'm fortunate to live in Hong Kong, where my urban dense environment, it's just theft really, it happens anywhere, but it's significantly less likely to happen in Hong Kong. But I have people, who on the channel for Nomads Nation from Rio or from Paris or places where they think that theft is much more of an issue, and they're more concerned about having bags that can then, serve that, right? And that have some more, whether it's theft deterrent zippers or locking mechanisms or no front compartment with exposed zippers, so yet again the location sort of comes into mind there. Do you have people in your community who are interested in like the security side of things as well?
I think people who watch my channel kind of understand that, where I'm coming from. Sort of like my point of reference is, mainly work from home, mainly commute to an office, like a secure building, and then back again. So back to the talk about priorities from different locations. It's not really, the issue of being in the metro or being in a dense sort of locale where there's a lot of people coming through and the potential for theft is higher. That doesn't really come up in the comments, but I can definitely see why people would sound off in your comments, just because, first of all, you talk about bags as your primary primary concern and point of issue. And so one of those is definitely security. I've seen a lot of bags that go as far as having even like chain link mesh like on the front, so that even if their bag gets slashed and the fabric gives way, then the mesh behind it will kind of keep your goods safe, which is crazy.
It is, yeah. That's like another level. I mean, the Corin bags do that, and PackSafe bags do that. Some of these bags come with like wires, so you can strap your bag down to like a bench or something in case you needed to.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just really on that location perspective, like how it just varies from person to person. I thought the weather thing that you brought up is really interesting as well. As to we're very technical in this community a lot. We love the freaking the X-Packs with the YKK PU coated zippers and the DWR finish and all these things. But have you ever really needed that is the question. No. Is it a nice insurance policy to have? Absolutely. Like just in case that one time, it's like insurance. Like you never need it until you need it. But really on a day-to-day basis, for you and your carry, it's just not essential. Versus in Hong Kong, also, I don't think it's necessarily essential because there's so much infrastructure in Hong Kong. You're rarely in a situation where you're walking in the rain for longer than a minute or two, but I guess it can happen. But still, the summer monsoons can happen. Rain will come out of nowhere, and having an X-Pac bag versus a wax canvas, plus you add humidity and all these different things. So yeah, it's super interesting to hear about like how the location can determine one's EDC.
Yeah, for sure. And what's interesting too, like, I mean, I can safely assume that we're both in it for the long haul when it comes to kind of reviewing EDC and making content. As time goes on, sort of the economy of developing technologies kind of wanes, and so it doesn't cost an arm and a leg to have an X-Pac bag versus a wax canvas bag or a linen bag. And so as we go forward, I think it'll be interesting to really talk about the priorities of choosing certain features, because there won't be a huge barrier to entry anymore. X-Pac won't cost double. It'll be maybe a few tens of dollars, or something that's a little more, something that's easier to swallow for the majority of our audiences. So it'll be cool to see what kind of decisions are influenced and changed as time goes on.
I love that. And also on top of it, like as you know, the price of X Pack might eventually, roll down a little bit, we're also getting newer brands into the mix that are focused on delivering value. Whether it's Alpaca, who I know you do a lot of, you do a lot of work with. Tom Talk, I'm not sure if you've seen any of their gear, but they're doing X Pack bags, dude, and like they're coming at pretty accessible price points, which is so exciting because it's just getting it makes it easier to access, right? And it gets getting more and more people entry level, and it's just elevating the entire industry because of that. So one of my things is like, with the carry community, I'm trying to create as many connections as possible. Like we have the group chat, with the other bag reviewers. Like I think like other entrepreneurial categories might not want to be in a group chat with their direct competitors necessarily, but I'm like, dude, let's all work together because we're just scraping the surface of where this industry can go. And the bigger you get, Ron, maybe you steal a click from me here or a click from me there, but what we can do as a team, as not as a team, but as a movement, that's on like the YouTube level of things, but also the consumer level of things. I just think there's so much more room for this industry to grow. I think we're just scraping the surface of where it's going to be.
Yeah. No, I agree. That's a great point, and I agree. Just because, like, YouTube has always been sort of like the Wild West kind of thing, and with more and more creators getting on board now, we're starting to kind of see what the landscape is shaping out to be as far as creating content goes, and in the context of trends and things that are evergreen, things that we can talk about year after year versus things that may not be relevant next year. I think as we put our heads together. I mentioned at the start of this chat, like, there's that little danger of, groupthink and, all of us coming up with the same things. But as long as we're aware of that and we kind of trudge forward just thinking, okay, we're collaborating here, let's bounce ideas off of each other, but let's not just immediately start to parrot what we all each other say. I think, wow, I don't know if that made sense or not, but as long as we're not repeating ourselves, I think like that's the main thing, and the synergies there are invaluable. I definitely agree.
Hell yeah, dude. No, it made sense. Like I got your drift. Don't you worry, dude. So listen, I want to change direction a bit. Like, well, not too much. We're still talking about EDC, but like, I want to know, dude, like, because I'm not sure if everybody in my audience, watches, your stuff, so I'm hoping that, definitely subscribe to Ron's channel, Live with Purpose. But
thank you. I appreciate that, man.
What are some EDC hacks you got? Like rain some knowledge down on me. Like give me like if someone had a gun to your head, like give me your best EDC hacks or your best tips. Like what is it that's like on your radar right now? For like these are the things you don't have to do, but these are the things you got to do.
Yeah. So recently, I've really been into slings, and I've kind of seen slings as sort of this like very kind of bridging the gap solution between having like a full-fledged, fully built-out backpack loadout and then just stuffing everything in your pockets kind of thing. It's funny you mentioned Tom Talk because I have one of their bags right here. This is the T33 Aviator sling, and it comes in two sizes. There's a 1.5 liter and a 3.5 liter, but I really resonated with the smaller capacity, contrary to what maybe many EDCers might think, like more is better, bigger backpacks are better, because it really allows you to kind of dial in your essentials and nothing more, kind of cuts the unnecessary stuff. And I would say that's my very first tip. Like, take a step back, look at all your gear, what you carry on a daily basis, and try and chop like 30% of that right off the bat. Because, as we kind of live our daily lives, we kind of set our gear and then forget it, but over time we may inadvertently collect things that we may not need. And so I think it's very important to take a step back every once in a while, maybe every quarter, and just think, okay, like, do I still need this in my bag? Maybe I can save a few ounces, especially, if I'm running the metro in Hong Kong every single day. I might want to shave off some of that weight if I can discern that this is no longer something I need in my bag.
Do you actually have quarterly audits? Do you actually do quarterly audits?
Yes. No, I mean, for me personally, it's like weekly audits. Like, there's so much gear that I kind of rotate through that I always need to be taking a look at. Okay, do I need this anymore? Can I throw in the next one so I can start reviewing it and testing it? Stuff
Hell
like
yeah,
that.
Dude. Well, dude, I love what you're saying there, because I completely agree. Like I feel like with tech gear getting more and more prominent in our lives, and now, it went from, I had a cell phone to now it's like I have a cell phone, and I got a laptop, and I got a tablet, and maybe I got a Switch, and, we're carrying a lot more stuff. And people, because of that, it's been the trend has been interesting to see where backpacks are getting bigger, like everyday carry backpacks. When I first got into the game like 5 years ago, 18 to 20 liters was like, that's your EDC size, you know? But now it's like, now Air's, you know, and then it's 22 liters. And then Air's coming out with the City Pack Pro, which is 24 liters. And then, you know, Danny Pax is using the CTB 26 as EDC. And that's fine, you know, to each their own. But I, too, like you, share a similar sort of belief system where it's like trying to find minimalism, or at least like just challenging yourself. That's what it is. Challenging yourself to really audit and see, hey, do I need that or do I not? I mean, if it's in a situation where a bag's in your car, you know, whatever. But for people who are using their bags on the daily and, you know, they have, you know, weight concerns, you know, it's kind of pulling out on your back a little bit.
Yeah.
I think that we can definitely agree there. And I also have those 2 Tom Talk slings, and I also like the 1.5 better. The 3.5, I was like, God, it's actually kind of big, like, and it's not.
Yes.
It's only 3.5 liters, but after the 1.5, like, damn, that feels good, you know?
Right.
Like you're loosey, you're goosey. It was a little tight. My current, actually, I'm gonna save that conversation. We'll talk about our favorite slings later. But all right, so I was asked about your hacks, and you mentioned that as one. Did you have another one lined up as well, like your top tips?
Yeah, so as an offshoot of using the sling as sort of like your direct essentials, I use the sling. It's a double usage there, where I use it as sort of my home base where I keep all my gear in. And so the lesson here, the tip here, is to have like a valet tray or some sort of home base that you always have your gear in when you come home. Because like I've been a victim of, you know, keeping my keys in my pocket, and then I'll go sit on the couch, fall into the couch, and then I'll spend the next hour looking for my keys the next time I need to go out. And so to kind of build the habit of coming home and really kind of just, okay, first thing I do is put my sling here. It always goes here, and all my gear is in that sling always. Like the keys, the wallet.
By your gear, yeah. So what gear do you carry in your sling?
For sure. So, I mean, I have it right here, but the wallet, okay. So, I'll go through it like quick fire. Won't spend too much time.
Please.
On it. But so the wallet, I don't carry much cash. I carry an emergency bill or two, but mainly it's cards. So my wallet is very minimal card holder that, you know, finds a nice cozy little corner in my compact sling.
You still using the Reform wallet? I know it was your favorite.
So I've been using the Reform O2 card holder. I love the magnetics of it, but you know, I've been kind of feeling nostalgic, if you will. So I've thrown my extra card holder back into the mix. So it's the one where it's aluminum body. You know, you push the button and it cascades.
Release, yeah.
So it's super handy there, and it's fun. It's a little fidget satisfaction there for you. But so I carry my wallet, my keys. I've always had my keys in a key organizer ever since I started YouTube. I went and bought my first like Orbit key just because I thought it was a novel product. But having your keys silent in a neat little stack, organized the way you want, and being able to swivel it out, that's tops. Like there's, you know, and for me personally, I carry 3 or 4 keys at a time. And so having a stack, not too big of a stack, that goes into the sling as well. Smartphone, you know, I do everything. I think this is a hot topic of debate where, you know, with EDC content creators, if a smartphone counts or not as gear. But for me, absolutely, man. Like as a content creator, I do everything out of my phone. You know, I'll answer comments, upload stuff, emails, and so the smartphone goes in. And then obviously I have my knife. Right now I'm using the Spyderco Para 3, and the gearhead in me, of course, wants to mod it and do all the things. So I've swapped out the scales. I've added, you know, a lanyard there, and it's always a good time when you're able to like customize gear for yourself. But those are some of the essentials that are always going in the pockets or the sling.
Interesting. So I think we share a lot of overlap, obviously, with the normal stuff: wallet, keys, phone. I don't have the knife like we talked about. Hoping one day. I always got a pair of sunglasses with me, always. So my shades are like, they're always with me. And it used to be the vape, but I'm getting off the vape. But now I'm doing like these nicotine pouches
good on you,
instead.
Dude.
So
good on you.
I'm trying. These still probably aren't good for me, but they're better than the freaking vape. So now there's always some sort of nicotine product.
You take it in baby steps.
Hey, one step at a time, dude. At least, But like, what's the theory then that you do? Like, so all that stuff just stays in your sling bag, and then that's just always there, and you just always know, hey, wallet, keys, knife, those are going to be in the sling, basically, for sure, 99% of the time.
Yeah, I would say it's situational, just because, like, for example, the smartphone, right? Like, you use that for everything, whether that's for work, for play, or even just like scrolling Instagram or whatever it is. So I usually have that, you know, floating with me. And then for the things that I need, you know, going out, like I'm always going to need my keys as I leave the house or enter the house. So the keys always stay in the sling or the valet tray. The knife typically will stay there because for me, I have have a lot of knives just as a content creator. So, you know, I have one in the garage, I have one in the drawer, I have one in every drawer in the house. So I don't need to carry that specific one. So I just leave that in the bag just so I'm never caught without it, you know? So I think it's situational, but mainly I try and just consolidate my essentials in one place. I think that's the key takeaway.
What do you ever rock anything in your pockets then, or is it all in the sling?
I do. So going back to, you know, like the location specific carry and then talking about climate, it's also, I've noticed, is seasonal. Like, for example, during the summer, it's really hot. So I'm more often in, you know, a tank and a pair of shorts than I am in joggers or, you know, utility pants or whatever. And so because of that, there's a lot of less pocket space. And so during the summer, I just find myself using a sling a lot more often than putting things in the pocket because, you know, with smaller pocket capacity, you can only put so many things in there before, you know, start bulging everywhere or it just isn't comfortable. And so during the summer, I usually only have my smartphone in my pockets just because it's easy access or whatever, and I'm always using it, so I just slip it in there. But for everything else, it usually goes in the sling. And when it gets colder or when things slow down a little bit, that's when, you know, I'll have the wallet in the pocket more, and, you know, it goes on from there.
Now, do you ever think about like the what if, like if I lose my sling and my wallet and my keys are in there, what happens? Because, and let me back that up a little bit, because I get a lot of comments on the channel. So when we're loading out backpacks for our bag reviews, I'll be like, yo, and on this bag we have a hidden back wallet pocket where you can unzip and slide your wallet in. They'll have the sexy slow motion B-roll of me doing it out in the streets, you know. And then I get comments like, only a fucking idiot would put their wallet in their bag, you know. And I'm like, spicy takes. I love it. Keep that engagement going. But I get that a lot, dude. Like, because in the demos, like, we're always packing things out, and I'll always put wallets and keys. Now, or maybe even a phone, you know, like we just did, you know, for my backpack, for the Fire backpack, we did some demos of like different spots that you can put your phone, and people are like, why would you ever put your phone in your bag? What if you lose it? So is that something that you ever think about?
Absolutely. Congrats on the Faro, by the way. Amazing backpack,
Thanks,
amazing campaign so far. That's awesome.
Thanks, dude.
So I definitely think about that, and I think with slings it's a little different because I do agree that I wouldn't necessarily put my smartphone in my backpack, not so much from a danger of loss or risk of loss issue, but more like I use my phone so often that like it would be cumbersome to kind of have to strap off the backpack, go into the admin hub, pull the phone out, and then reload up. You know, it's just better to just slide it in the pocket. And you know, as an extension of that, I don't really use admin hubs on my backpacks in general, just because I either have it in the sling or I have a dedicated tech pouch or something like that. But the main point here is that with slings, it's smaller, and so it's easier to get in and out of, and by extension to keep on you at all times. Like when I get in the car, I don't take my sling off because I use such a small sling. I just front sling it and then strap my seatbelt over top. Cool. And so the sling is reasonably never off my body when I go anywhere. So the only times when I would really lose my sling is if someone rips it off my back, you know, and you know, that's, I would say that hopefully that doesn't really happen. So it's okay for me to kind of keep my wallet in here and my phone in here because it's always up here when I need to access it, and then I can just backsling it when I need to put it away. But I think with backpacks that might be a different issue.
All right, so yeah, I mean, how do you feel about like your keys or your wallet being carried in your backpack then? Do you have that apprehension?
I don't
or
do
if
that.
You use a backpack no, you don't.
Yeah. So when I roll with a backpack, this may be excessive, but whenever I roll with a backpack, I always have a sling.
Let's get weird with it. Let's go deep.
For sure. So when I roll with a backpack, I have the sling up front. In fact, like yesterday, I went to the grocery store with my 2 kids, just solo, and so I had my daddy day pack. You know, my bag with all like the wipes, the diapers, the spare clothes and stuff that goes on my back. And then on front, I had my Aviator T33 1.5 liter sling, and so that had my phone, my wallet, my keys, everything up front. And there's flexibility there because there's different access or anchoring points, so you could carabine the sling to your straps if you wanted to. But you know, I have the sling in the front with all my essentials, my backpack in the back, and nothing in the pockets, so I can like be nimble and not have to worry about bending over, picking up my kid, and something falling out of my pockets. So that's how I roll with
right
it
now, because that is so smart in some ways, but also I feel like it would drive me crazy in other ways. because one of the biggest things is like, yeah, you have your like 4, 5, 6 essentials. Everyone has it, right?
Sure.
And what annoys me is having to like, all right, maybe it's a sling day, right? And I'm going out with my wife, we're grabbing like dinner, and I'm just bringing the essentials, right? And then there's days where I'm going to work, and I'm running around town and I need the backpack, right? So then I got to switch all my stuff from sling to backpack, and then backpack when back to sling, and I hate that game. I really don't like it, and I lose stuff, and I forget where stuff is, and I'm not making habits, So you're sort of like just jumping over that. You're like, dude, you just keep the sling no matter what. It's like you're just rocking a sling basically at all times, even if you got a backpack.
I think mostly, yeah, and it depends too. Like for example, like here's another scenario in the winter, I'm not wearing shorts. I have ample pocket space. I may not rock a sling. I may have the wallet in the front left pocket, the smartphone in my back right pocket, my keys and my knife in my front right pocket. And then that's when I'll just rock the backpack without the sling because I have my essentials in my pocket. And so that leads me to my next point in that I kind of have this ritual of loading up that I respect. Like before I go out or do anything, I have this like 10-minute window where I'm just like, okay, I'm loading up now. What do I need? What do I need to put it in? And so that's when I kind of like become aware of things like, okay, I left my essentials in my sling the last time, so I'm going to bring my sling. Or in this case, the winter scenario, it's like, okay, I have my stuff in my valet tray. I'm not going to rock a sling because I have pockets, so I'm going to load up and put the stuff where it needs to go before I walk out. And so, yeah, it sucks to have to like take everything out of one thing, put it in the next, but I think like respecting the process of like, okay, before I go out, no matter what, this is the habit I'm making. Before I go out, I spend 10 minutes and think about where my gear is, where I'm putting it, what gear I need, and then I walk out. And so having that be the constant, it makes things
your
easier.
Optimization is on like the next level. Like I'm always like frantically like heading out the door, like, I hope I didn't forget anything. But Ryan's like,
I hope I don't forget. Yeah.
You're lighting some candles. You're like, yo, it's time to do 10 minutes prior to launch.
Positive affirmation before you walk out the door.
Absolutely.
Hell yeah, dude.
That's incredible, dude. Well, like on the note of bags, then, dude, like I want to talk about like what are some of your favorites? And don't say, I'm actually gonna I got a little list. I want to go like bit by bit. But what I do want to start with though is actually knife. Like if you had, if anybody at the Nomads Nation Podcast right now was listening to this and like, damn, dude, Ron preached. Like, I want a knife now, where should they start with?
For sure. So in the knife world, there's sort of like budget knives and then like your first quote unquote real knife kind of thing. And so I always suggest that if you're curious about the knife world, but not necessarily in it or know if knives are something that you want to adopt long term, I wouldn't blow stacks on it. I wouldn't spend $160 on a Benchmade bug out or $200 on a Spyderco Para 3. I would just get like a utility knife from Home Depot and just put it in your pocket. Like, of course, observe your local knife laws and all that stuff, but just carry it for 30 days. And if you find yourself using it more than once a day, then I would then suggest you go into a little deeper into the hole. So even before I recommend you a certain knife, I would say try it out first and figure out if it aligns with your purpose.
Well done. Like and subscribe. That's really interesting. I like that because you're almost like putting yourself through like an initiation process. It's like, hey, let's see if I even like this thing being in my pocket or I'm actually going to use it, So you spend, I don't know, $10-15 at the Home Depot. How much would a Home Depot?
They're like $8 for one. And cool. The Milwaukee Fastback is a gold standard, in the industry. And, just stick with that. Utility blade, it's super easy. And you just roll with that until you figure out, okay, yeah, I'm going to use a knife. And then from there, if I had to suggest something, I would start with a solid budget knife. The Civivi Elementum is a great one. They have a variety of different blade steels, button lock versus compression lock, things like that. And so there's different mechanisms that you can go with, but Civivi Elementum, can't go wrong with that. And
how do you spell that, Rob?
What's up?
What's that brand?
Civivi, so Civivi. And then cool the Elementum is a go-to for me.
So are these like the Air and Belroys of the knife world?
Not even. I would say they're more like, I would say like they're like the Tom Talks. Like it's import, it's budget. They're reliable, they're practical. but they're not like, they don't cost an arm and a leg, and they're always improving too. Like Tom Talk 2 years ago, you're like, okay, cool, like budget sling, fine. But now, like, they're a force to be reckoned with. You know what I mean? They're using top tier materials, and somehow, whether it's, economies of scale or what have you, they're able to offer a sub $40 sling of premium material, like ripstop nylon and all this stuff, YKK zipper. Like, they're doing it right. Whatever they're doing it right.
They're killing it. Okay, so that's okay. Got it. So that was Civivi, and then you had the other brand as well, and then, all right, that's it. Just go to Home Depot, get a little $8.
Yeah,
knife,
man.
test it out.
I think and you can take this with any type of gear. Like if you're considering any type of gear, gear costs a lot of money these days. Like no matter how you slice it, and as content creators, we like premium features and premium offerings. So we're ready to spend the money if it's worth it. But to figure out whether it's worth it to you or not, you got to make sure that you don't use it once a year. Like let's buy a $400 Go Ruck GR1 and then use it once a month or whatever. It's not worth it at that point.
100%. What about pouches? What's your go-to? Actually, no. Let me rephrase my question. What's your favorite pouch?
My favorite pouch.
Sling,
are we talking like tech pouches?
Yeah.
Okay. I think my resounding sort of like pouch that I always go back to is the Peak Design tech pouch.
Oh yeah?
Yeah. It's like the perfect mix of like, yeah, man. Like you unzip it, clamshell, it stands on its own on the table, so you can use it as a mobile workstation. It's got that origami style construction pockets. And I've noticed that like X-Pack in that specific use case isn't ideal because X-Pack is pretty rigid. And so to have it, set up as a workstation and have it open, you want it to stay open. But with X-Pack, you open it and it'll just bounce back to its original form factor, which is great for certain purposes. Yeah, but not so much this one. The Peak Design I feel like is flexible enough, whereas something like the Alpaca Tech case, while it has the same features on paper, when you open it and put it down, it's very rigid. So it's not as flexible as, I personally would want a tech pouch to be when I'm being productive.
Yeah. If you love X-Pack, you shouldn't just necessarily be like, everything that I have, just slap X-Pack on it, because it doesn't always. There's a use case for different fabrics, right? Like, I mean, sometimes, like, that's one thing that I respect about Bellroy, is to where they'll try and figure out different fabrics that best fit the use case. And Evergoods does this as well. I mean, all the top brands do. I mean, you have brands like Air who are like, hey, we just rock 1680D Cordura ballistic nylon, and you know what? It works on basically all types of bags, anyways. But there's things to keep in mind as to where you have different fabrics serve different purposes, and I do think that X-Pack for like a tech pouch isn't quite as necessary from that perspective. So that makes sense. So Peak Design tech pouch, final answer. That's like your go-to.
Yes, absolutely, man.
I love that tech pouch. It's an absolute classic. I mean, you said gold standard earlier for a knife. I mean, that's pretty much so considered. I think it actually was considered to be the gold standard. I would say the Evergoods Cap 2 has been like fighting for the throne. Very different takes on a tech pouch, very different sort of design principles and perspectives on that. I do love the Peak Design tech pouch. It's just got way too much organization for me. We were talking about earlier, and for some people's loadouts, that's perfect. Some people, like, I need 2 of those for my EDC, right? I carry a lot less gear with me. So when I tried to use it, it was just like so much unused space. And then I was like, well, I got to fill that with something, So now I'm like trying to find random shit in my house. Oh, can I put that there? And they kind of defeated the purpose. So I'm at a point now where I'm not sure. Have you tried the Bellroy desk caddy yet?
No, not yet.
Fire, dude. I mean, but then again, it works for my use case. Like, it's very minimalist. There's only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 slits or pockets in there, and it just kind of fits the things that I need to carry. So for me, it's my go-to right now. But it's quite cool because it stands upright, and there's this little, how the Evergoods Cap 2 like does that zip thing and it pops open. The Evergoods does something similar, but it's a zip and it kind of folds open. But the Cap 2 is really heavy and bulky, which is great because it gives you extra padding and protection. But it's also heavy and bulky, so pros and cons with everything. So we got for me, it's Bellroy. For you, it's Peak Design. Nice, but I'm curious, when it comes to your sling, I mean, you're slinging a lot. You're talking Tom Talk. You're talking, I think you were mentioning Alpaca a lot. So what's your go-to sling at this point?
So my go-to sling, so I feel like I have a somewhat hot take on slings. although maybe it is like sort of the prevailing thought. But with slings, it's like the smallest bag you can possibly have that's still strapped on, right? Otherwise it'd be a pouch or whatever that goes into a larger bag. And so for me, I love compact slings, sub 1 liter if possible. And so my all-time favorite has been the Air Ghost Sling 2.
Hell yeah, dude. It's one of my all-timers too. It's so great.
It's great. 0.7 liters, and it has just enough room for my essentials. And it has, I feel like, the most organization for a small bag that I've ever seen. You know, like usually small bags, like people kind of just afterthought it, where it's like, okay, let me just split the main volume into 2 or give you one zip pocket in there and that's it. But with the Air Ghost Sling 2, there's like, you know, half pockets, there's a zip, there's, you know, a separation, a divider in the main compartment. And it's just so, and a front access pocket too. So there's just so many well thought out features there in something that's sub 1 liter. And there's, you know, magnetic fastener on the strap and all that. Like, I don't know. Can't go wrong with that, man. It's been my go-to. And I've always been coming back to it.
Such a good call. It's that was my number one sling in my rotation. And then, you know, we get kind of new gear and like, you replace it out. So that was my go-to for like a full year. And then I switched to the Bellroy Venture Ready Sling 2.5 liter. I'm going to sound like a Bellroy fanboy. I'm not. It's just that these two products are really good. And it kind of changed the game for me a little bit because what's important to me in a sling is like a really good fit. And those Tom Talks that you got, they have... The harness system is done in a way that it just sort of really perfectly fits the torso, right? Versus like a sling / fanny pack combo. Sometimes they don't quite fit on the chest the same way because they're trying to be a fanny pack
the
as well as a sling.
Is important.
100%. But the Air Ghost Sling 2 is like, yo, this is not a fanny. This is meant to be a sling, and because of that, it just rests on the torso so effortlessly, and it moves with your body, and you can kind of pop it to the side if you want, and it's absolutely such a great sling, and great entry-level sling as well. I mean, it's $60, which might be a little steep for some people, but it's got a really cool crinkle nylon material. It's got the Fidlock magnet. It's got, so, you know, it's got a little bit of fidget to it. It's got a little bit of flash to it, while still being super low-key as well. So that's one of my reasons why I love that sling.
For sure. Here, I got a question for you real quick on slings.
Yeah.
Do you wear, when you front sling your sling, do you wear it slanted like this with your dominant hand coming over top, or do you wear it the other way with your secondary hand over top?
That's a great question. I don't know how to answer that. I'm picturing it right now. All right, so I'm wearing a sling. I would probably
Did I ask it well? I don't know, like, because like...
I go ahead, show me. How do you wear it?
Okay, so like I've noticed that with slings, like usually the fastener's on one side, right? And so the way I put on my sling is like I usually take the back and I throw it over my shoulder, catch it on the other side, and then come up and then strap it into place. And that's how I like my slings. And then, you know, my dominant hand is here. I can come in, grab stuff very easily. But I've noticed that some sling manufacturers, they'll put the strap or they'll put the buckle on the other side. So it's either they're leaning towards a certain, you know, you're either right-handed or left-handed. So they're leaning right-handed people or left-handed people, or I'll see other brands kind of like put the strap, the buckle in the middle. So it's, you know, on paper it's ambidextrous, but then you don't get into it as quick either way. So I was just curious how you like set up your sling and how you take it on and put it off.
Dude, this is like a different level of sling theory. Like we're going to the depths of Mordor right now with like how hard, and I love it, bro. I love it. There's like 4 people listening to this right now who are like, "Oh my god, this is the greatest thing ever." This is full on
nerdery. This is like geeking out over slings right now, man.
You know, it's funny. Usually when I put on my slings, I'm usually not using the buckle. I'll just like put it over, so I don't have the same.
Oh, you'll put it over top, and it's already attached.
Yeah. I'll just fucking do one of those. So, but we do it the same way as for my dominant hands come in like that. So we're the same there. But you like that satisfying kind of like pop.
Yeah,
and swing, right?
Like whop. I don't know. Maybe I'm too like grandiose with that, but I like the fidget aspect of it. So I'll just swing it over back, catch it, and snap it into place. And then when it comes time to take it off, I'll just, you know, flick the magnetics real quick, and then everything just comes off real easy. I don't know. I just enjoy that. Or maybe I just don't have good over top mobility. Like my shoulder mobility is real bad.
Gotta get to like a yoga class or something, dude. Yeah, seriously. All right. Well, I think we got it on slings then. No, because you said the Air Ghost Sling. Yeah, well, mine. Oh, actually, just to close the loop, mine right now is the Bellroy Venture Ready Sling 2.5 liter. And although it's 2.5 liters, it feels more like a 1.7 or something. It doesn't feel too big. So that's a great sling as well. It's one of the most comfortable slings that I've ever worn. Just the way that they just created that harness system. Have you reviewed this bag, Ron?
No, not yet. In fact, you know what's funny? A curious fact of mine is that I've never really tried Bellroy bags at all yet. And so I think I've just been waiting to see which, two I want to start with. And I think you've answered that question for me.
I'd highly recommend it, dude. It's got this really cool fabric. They use a Bita ripstop nylon, and it's got a really nice texture to it. It's like a thicker, like coarser sort of a ripstop nylon, but it's got a really nice weather protection to it. It feels good. It looks good. After the call, let me know if you want me to introduce you to the people I got at Bellroy, okay? I'm going to get you a Venture Ready Sling 2.5 liter, okay? Let's see. All right, moving on. Let's see.
You there?
Do you ever use a messenger bag?
Yeah.
Messenger or a brief?
Not my style. Like, I think, like, if I were to wear something big enough that would warrant a messenger bag, I'd prefer a backpack with 2 straps.
Got it. Well,
and
we're just
then
gonna skip
if it's
that
anything
one, then.
smaller than that, then I would just use a sling, yeah.
Bye-bye messenger. Next up, small EDC backpack. Yet again, I'm not sure if this is a category that you're into. Like, I like, sometimes it's just nice to have like a 12 or 15 liter backpack when you're going out for the day. Some people just say, well, screw it, I'll just wear my 22 liter. Do you ever use a small everyday carry backpack?
I usually stick with the 20s and the 22s. Yeah.
Got it. Cool.
I think
Well,
I've tried the 16 liter
too.
able carry Daybreaker, and I just realized that it's a little too small for my tastes. In that, I'm either gearing up super minimally and it'll fit in a sling, or I'm going full backpack loadout, and that would warrant the 2022 sort of like liter volume.
It's a great point. Like, I mean, those 16 liter bags, like, they just feel great to wear because they're quite light and there's just less real estate and it's less oppressive. But the second you got to throw a couple extra things in there, dude, it's like, well, that's not going to happen. So, I get what you're saying. So, all right, so we took Messenger off this list. We took small EDC backpack, but let's stick with
real quick,
regular.
I don't want to interject again, but on the
please.
topic of like talking about small bags and in between volumes, did you catch the Carryology Matador collaboration release recently? It was like their like packable, like smaller pack and sling, and they talked about this concept that I thought was interesting, the 1.5 bag loadout, in that like there's a segment of our community that just wants one bag for everything, right? But sometimes that doesn't really look great because like the one bag gets you there, but let's say you want to do like a day excursion or something and you don't want to carry everything, and so maybe you want a smaller bag like a sling or a smaller Daybreaker or something like that. And so the theory of 1.5 liter carry is really interesting to me, and I think like I'm taking a second look at packable stuff like packable backpacks, packable slings, and Matador makes really awesome travel gear. But what are your thoughts on sort of like the 1.5 bag like loadout?
I'm all about it, and honestly, it's you actually already are a 1.5 bagger, right? Because you already have that sling in the front and the backpack in the back, just when you're going out grocery shopping with the kids, right? And like, I wouldn't do that in my day to day. I would just prefer to have a backpack. Maybe I'll give it a shot though. Maybe you'll convert me onto knives and 1.5 bagging on my EDC. But when it comes to traveling, bro, like I'm team 1.5 bag all day. Like, it's always a travel backpack, 30 liters to 35 liters depending on the trip. I mean, honestly, actually, I challenged myself. I'm doing a month in the U.S. on a 22 liter bag. I wanted to go as minimalist as I could. Just one 22 liter backpack. So I'm doing a lot of laundry, but it's just been so light. But anyways, let's say it's like I'm not challenging myself like that. I'd always have a 30 liter backpack on the shoulders, and then just like you, sling in the front. And I don't always bring a packable bag. For some trips I have. It depends, like if I'm going with, like when I'm at like a family trip, like my mom and stuff, I know I wanted to carry it, and my wife, I know I wanted to carry like their sweaters for them, and like we had like a camera, so I bring a packable bag for that situation. But it's just the sling for me. It's always it's travels, all the packing cubes and the bulkier travel bits are in the backpack. Passport, boarding pass, phone, wallet, those things that I want quick access to in the front. And then when I get to my destination, that I'm just slinging at that point. I think the 1.5 bag thing. Yeah, it is. I mean, and Bellroy is like trying to coin this term, and I know they're doing a lot of like marketing promotions now with the 1.5 bag thing, but it's already it's a pretty big thing in the community right now. A lot of people that I'm talking to in the channel and in the community, they're already doing this, and it's just it's how you said it, it's just having everything that you need right there, right? Because that's just the access, the ease of use, and it's never uncomfortable. So, God, maybe I'm convincing myself now to try wearing the sling.
You're already
in
there,
EDC
bro.
I'm there. I'm there.
You're just kicking stones at this point. You're already there. You're doing it. You don't know it, but you're there.
I know. Guilty as charged. Well, then on that like regular EDC backpack conversation, what's your go-to? I mean, I know you're an able carry
I think
guy,
right now, I mean, backpacks are kind of like the bread and butter, and I really enjoy a lot of different packs that come through the studio. Notably, the Air City Pack Pro is a great one. The Able Carry Daily Plus, that one has, especially the X Pack one. But I love it. I mean, they're just. I feel like it's a great size, and it's perfect for daily essentials, and it has that extra real estate for, you know, like let's say you want a hoodie or you want to bring like a 32-ounce like Nalgene water bottle with you. It has the space to accommodate all that and still, you know, have that proper laptop sleeve, the admin hub for your miscellaneous accessories, and, you know, all around great stuff. That, and then I think the one that I started with was the Mystery Ranch Urban Assault, the 21 liter. I think the 3A Assault is the 3A Assault. Yeah, 21 liter. But I just love the straps. Like they're very comfortable. Mystery Ranch has that like unique like 3-zipper where you can get into the top as a traditional backpack. But let's say you want to have something at the bottom, you just lay it down sideways, open it up, and it's like a duffel. So I love the utility there. So those I think would be my 3.
Some good picks.
For one, but
you got a little greedy, and I loved it. Mystery Ranch. So comfortable, dude. The way that they have like the load lifters too, you can go ahead and pop those bad boys up on on a bag that size is kind of rare, and you can when you got that thing decked out, you can you pull those into place. You can just feel the weight coming off of your back a bit and being redistributed more towards your torso. So I never loved the. I'm a quick access guy when it comes to my backpacks, right? Because like I'm living in Hong Kong and I'm zipping around and I'm like, I need my wallet, I need this, I need that, you know, I need to grab my card. So that bag didn't have enough quick access for me, like the single shoulder swing, grab something quick access, right? So for me, that's why I'm with you with Able Carry any of their backpacks, because whether it's the 13, which I have a lot of experience with, or the Max, Daily Plus, they all have that like sort of slash diagonal front pocket, you know, you just swing the bag around, unzip, and then just those few things that I might need access to while I'm traversing through the city, it just gives it to you like that, and that's really important to me. So I'm with you with Able Carry there, and their bags are comfortable, and I think Able Carry bags just look great. I love the look. The A-frame that it's got going on, that sort of like cone-like shape. I just think they look really smart. And living in Hong Kong, Able Carry is a Hong Kong company, and they have like taken over the Hong Kong market.
That's awesome.
Everybody wears backpacks in Hong Kong, so and about I'd say 20% of people in Hong Kong wear like nice backpacks, you know, whether it's Mystery Ranch, whether it's Evergoods, whether it's and out of that, like Able Carry's got like half the market now, so they're killing it in their hometown. Shout out to Able Carry.
For sure.
So, but also some of the bags that I've enjoyed over my time is a Modern Dayfarer backpack. Have you ever given that a go?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. A lot of quick access, so it's got that side panel, which yet again, so as opposed to being in the front, it's on the side, so it's even easier to access in that perspective, and a couple of back wallet pockets. And then, what else? I'm trying to think of the best. Evergood CPL 24. You know, some people say it's the GOAT. Have you had some time to test that one out?
Yes, yeah. I mean, and it's all over socials, right? Evergoods, I would say they make a good product, and they share it well too, like on socials. So it's people know when they see it.
Yeah. It's they're very low key good at marketing. Like they don't. It's nothing against their products. I think that they don't get enough. They don't get enough props for like, yo, their marketing is pretty freaking good, dude. Like they got content. They got a good content game. And I think that's definitely one of the driving factors for their growth. And it's interesting though, like I get a lot of ads from backpack brands, as I'm sure you do too. I don't think I've ever gotten an Evergoods ad, so I don't think they're doing like paid ads. I think that they're just really good at the organic social game. They just make really good videos that are really shareable.
Yeah,
It's
I mean,
really
they're letting the product speak for itself, and then they're disseminating it in a way where it's not
they're
like
getting like those
overbearing.
evangelists, you know, those hardcore carry people to sort of you know, push that brand forward, and that's why Evergoods is the powerhouse that it is now. I mean, you saw their They did the CTB. It's normally a 26 liter. They did a 20 liter. They had 1,000 units sold out in like 6 hours. I mean,
nuts.
I think it was 250 times 1,000. That's $250,000 revenue in like 7 hours. So they're doing something right.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so we got the regular backpacks. Let's talk like travel bags though. First of all, I'm curious though, like, do you travel a lot? I mean, you were telling me before we were recording, you got 2 young kids. Is travel sort of like not happening right now, or you're bringing the kids on road trips, or what's the Ron Kwok travel situation looking like these days?
I feel like, so me and my wife, when we met, we a little backstory for you. We met and then we vibed with each other so well that within 5 months of dating, we took like one of those impromptu trips to Australia. It was like
no shit.
Man, I always wanted to go to Australia. Me too. Let's just do it. And
Let's go.
So, yeah, right. So our relationship has always been revolving around adventures and experiences. And so we definitely are always thinking about traveling and going to places with our kids too, because we want to share that with them as well. And there are some benefits of traveling with kids, like, under a certain age, they fly free. And so, you just get out and go. So financially, it's not so bad. But I think like travel packs wise, for me, I always want to make sure that my kids are taken care of. So if I need to haul a little extra something, whether it's like, milk bottles or, the wipes, the extra clothes and stuff, I want to have extra capacity for that. And so with it depends on which trip I go on. Like if it's a multi-week, then of course it's gonna be a different loadout than if it's just a weekend trip. But as far as travel packs go, I think you touched on it earlier, but the Able Carry Max has been an amazing experience. 35 liters. It's got a huge, generous main compartment. It's built like a tank. Like I'm sure it's not the lightest travel backpack, but I think just for me, it's not about min-maxing the weight. It's more about making sure it does everything I need it to do. And so it's been a wonder to travel with, man.
It's one of my go-tos. It's a top 3 travel bag all time. I think it's a 30 liter though. You said 35.
Oh, really? No way.
I believe it's a 30. You've been traveling with a 30 liter without even knowing it. Able Carry, max backpack,
So,
30 liters.
Shame on me.
No, it's even more awesome for you. You're even more You're even more of a minimalist than you thought you were.
Yeah.
It
is a 30. There you go.
It's a 30 liter, dude. Yeah, and that's why I love that bag, because that 30 liter mark is a really great capacity to travel with, because it does challenge you. It's like, hey, you're not gonna fit everything you want, so you gotta cut a few things out, and I like that when I'm traveling. I like to sort of look at all these things and be like, okay, what's not coming on this trip, because a lighter bag is a happier travel experience, for me. Sometimes you gotta bring the decked out suitcase. Sometimes you need the 45 liter backpack. It happens, but because of that size, that's why I love that backpack so much. Because my other favorite travel backpack, I got a few. I love the Tortuga travel backpack Pro, I think is what it's called now. They renamed it. But that's like the tank. That's like when I need 45 liters where I'm like living somewhere on the road for an extended period of time. But it's just too big for me now. So I like that 30 liter mark. And my other favorite is Manal Carry-On 3.0. You ever tried that one?
No, I've actually not heard of that.
Really? Oh, dude. All right, cool.
You gotta send me a link. I'll check it out. Yeah,
I'll send you a link, dude. Don't you worry. But it's a great travel bag. Very minimalist. One of the best laptop compartments in the game. And it just feels amazing. But it's 35 liters, and I wish it was 30 liters. And because it's not 30 liters, that's why the Max is just the go-to for me.
Right.
So we're on the same page there. Do you got any other travel bags that you might throw into the rotation?
I think like with travel backpacks, like I've got like one in different flavors. Like my 30 liter, 35 liter, like I thought it was 35 liter is the max, right? But then I think aside from that, I usually bring like a huge duffel when it comes to like just making sure that whatever excess gear we need to bring with us, like let's say we're just going down and the kids need this and that. I like the I think it's the Wandered Hexad 60 liter duffel. It's like this big built out duffel that, has removable straps so you can wear it as a backpack, or you can just use it as a carry-all bag and just toss it. It's super solid, very padded. And, it serves my needs when it comes to just hauling excess equipment. Like if I just need a bunch of different things, just throw it in there and go.
Now, would that be more like a road trip bag, or are you actually like flying with that bag?
So I think that would be more of a road trip bag. When I'm flying, and I need, extra gear, it would probably take the form of a suitcase. And so that's usually when I put my heads together with, you know, my wife, and we figure out, okay, like, we need to load up. You know, have you ever like done like a collaborative loadout where like you don't just load out your stuff and then you're ready to go? You like you lay out the bags and then you're like strategize with your significant other. It's like, okay,
absolutely,
you obviously need more room, so you can take this spot in my bag.
Absolutely, yeah. Been there a few times, and usually when I'm doing that collaboration, I find that I'm losing space over time, and
Yes.
she's gaining more real estate.
That's how it is, man.
It is how it is, but it's so true. Yeah, I mean, I do some suitcase travel every now and then. I try to keep it as light as possible, but obviously,
Yep.
you know, I can imagine traveling more with significant other, traveling more with kids. You got more gear. It's like, dude, I'm just bringing a freaking suitcase. Do you got a suitcase that you guys like?
I think like I haven't gotten my wife on board with gear to the point where she'll let me curate her gear. She's like, I got my own things. Like you worry about your stuff, you nerd. But for me,
Burn.
for me, I've recently tried the Air carry-on,
Yeah.
and I thought it was really well built suitcase. Like I know they made it in collaboration with I forget the name, but they collaborated with a suitcase carry-on maker, and you know, I think it did what Air typically does with bags. You know, they overly design it, and it's kitted out with technical fabrics and features, and I really enjoy that in a carry-on. But nothing in terms of the oversized suitcase variety for me just yet.
Yeah, me too. I think that when I do an oversized suitcase, just like that cheap one from Walmart that's just been sitting in the closet for, you know, for 10 years, and it always pulls through, you know? So like, yet again, full circle, you don't always need to buy expensive gear for everything. I still use, you know, I don't want to use the word cheap, let's say more accessibly priced stuff, you know, when it's needed,
priced.
because it still gets the job done sometimes.
Yes.
Yeah, the Air suitcase was quite interesting. Did you follow the controversy with that launch at all, though?
Yeah, it was very interesting because it seemed
wild.
like they had the smaller one just like in their back pocket. I think like
What
for
was
the
that?
Japanese market, I think.
Oh, was that it?
Yeah, so the way I thought I understood or interpreted the news, it was like they had the smaller, like fully TSA regulated, internationally carry-on size regulated bag, but that was for the Japanese market because they tend to like smaller bags. And then they released like, you know, the carry-on that I think you and I got, where it was just slightly bigger than, you know, typical regulations, and there was huge blowback as far as like why would that be a thing. And then they immediately were like, we listen, here you go, the smaller one is ready to go. And so I just thought it was curious that like they had the stock and they had the inventory, and then
It was a weird 48 hours, dude, because the videos went live, and Air's good about that, like, you know, getting bags to creators and building up that launch, you know. And I think that Pack Hacker had one and Bo had one, and all the reviewers were like, hey, we like it, but all the people were like, it's not the right size, and like they were like, it was a very passionate response in regards to the size and the price. And I'll be the first to admit, I'm not quite a suitcase enthusiast anywhere near the way that I am with backpacks. So even my review, I'm like, hey guys, you know, this is like my 7th suitcase that I reviewed, but I just kind of want to do a walkthrough for you. But yeah, I learned a lot that review, because that size is really important. And I've learned, you know, when I do suitcase reviews in the future, that I want to kind of focus on that a little bit more. So it was a learning experience for me as a reviewer, but also for Air. And I loved how they responded, because they were so fast. Say, hey, we listened. Price $3.99. Now it's $3.25. Also, abracadabra, we have a smaller one as well. And that was pretty wild. So it was a pretty crazy 48 hours.
Yeah,
Lessons
and
were learned across
the
the board.
learning aspect of that whole experience was great on all parts. I think Air learned a lot about their audience, like their customer segment, when it comes to carry-ons and what their priorities are. And for us as reviewers, we kind of get a glimpse at what people really value as far as carry-ons go. Because, you know, like you, I don't travel every day, every week, so I don't have a good read on, you know, the ultimate carry-on. Right? Like I just kind of have my own reference, my own perspective on, you know, when I get a carry-on, what are my pain points? What am I looking for? And I think with that TSA like carry-on regulation issue, I think for me, it's probably the same as a bunch of other people, where like I would rather just buy a bag that on paper is the size that it needs to be, because I don't know how the TSA is going to react. I don't know how like the agent at the counter is going to be like, oh, you know, this is too big, check it. So I would rather not deal with all of that, and the pain point of like, should I get the Air carry-on or should I just get one that fits the bill? Like, that's sort of a no-brainer for me. So for Air to kind of recognize that and make that quick audible, I think was the best. Like, it was the best reaction they could have had to that.
Oh, dude, for sure. Props to Air for that. It was we all learned a lot, and that one bag travel community is very passionate. They're very, like, the way that you are with EDC. They are like with millimeters of bag too big here. This one weighs, this is why the ULA Dragonfly is so big right now. Have you seen this backpack?
No, ULA Dragonfly.
Oh, dude, if you go into Reddit, many baggers, it's the talk of the town right now, and it's just it's this hiking bag, but it's just super lightweight. It's like a pound. And people are using it to travel with. Yeah, it's but it's really comfortable. It's got some cool features, some really great material. So it's just blowing up right now because, like, these one baggers, they just want something that's lighter and it's fitting the bill. So
yeah,
lots travel world, it's crazy, and it's just hard because there's so many things that are happening, so many things that are changing, and like this is the standard 1 week, and then a different airline changes theirs, so it's a hard game to keep up with, but we do our best, guys.
For sure. And like with technology always getting better, like there's always new and improved versions coming out, and as content creators, right, like keeping tabs on everything new that's coming out and being able to react to that and try it out and test it out, it's hard.
It really is. And what's getting crazy, dude, in Asia, I know they're not doing this in the States, but like they're weighing all your bags now. So even if you get like a really nice flight, and I just have a backpack 22 liters, like put it on the scale, I'm like, it's a small little backpack. And then they'll do that with your personal sometimes too, and if that's over the limit, they'll make you check your carry-on. So
wow,
it's hard out there for a traveler. It really
they're
is.
Cracking down, huh? That's crazy.
Laying down the law, dude. Well,
and what's worse is that I feel like there's no like consolidated system or guidelines across the board. Like every airline will have slightly different, requirements, and you just really have to do your best to kind of find a bag setup or a set of bags that kind of checks most of the boxes, because there's no one bag that will check all of them all the time.
100%, especially when it comes to travel and how ever changing that is. It's a tough game out there, but it's fun to play. It's like you and me are like, we're like that's optimization dudes. So exactly, that's why we're here. So keep playing the game, guys, because it gives us stuff to talk about. But Ron, listen, dude, this has been a freaking blast, man. Before we head out, like, anything you want to plug? What's going on with Live with Purpose? You guys got anything?
For sure, man. So I'm doing this fun little thing where I'm gonna wear a sling every day for 90 days and just kind of talk about my experiences there. I think I always like slings. What's up?
You're gonna like sleep with it on too?
Every day, bro, not every night. I'll shower with it and then show you on shorts what it's like. But you can find me on YouTube, just Ron Kwok, and then I'm on Instagram at Live with Purpose EDC. You can find some cool photos and some short form content there. But just rolling the summer, figuring out what my everyday carry looks like this summer, and then going into the holiday season, there's always going to be new stuff popping off on the channel. So head over there if you enjoy some everyday carry content / sling stuff.
Awesome, Ron. Thanks for coming on. Thanks for converting me onto being a knife enthusiast and everything else that you did.
Hey, no problem, man. If you ever need me to convince you to spend more money, I'm here for you, brother.
You're my guy.
Thank you for having me on the podcast, man. I really appreciate it, and I hope you have a great one, dude.
Awesome, man. We'll chat soon.
All right, Aaron.